Federal government commits to tackling insecurity as cadets pass out from Nigerian Defense Academy, Kaduna. As Nigeria marks World Teachers' Day, President Buhari promises more incentives to retain young graduates in public schools. Plus, Nigeria occupies a place in Germany's new global health strategy for improved partnership on health. And now the news in full. President Muhammadu Buhari says the country is making significant progress in containing all forms of criminality. Suleiman Abdullahi Rigachikun reports that the president said this at the 67th passing out parade of cadets of the Nigerian Defense Academy, Kaduna.
Battalion Senior Officer Owarwe Tunde, the overall winner, and 172 cadets of the 66 Regular Coast Army, 90 Nigerian Navy cadets and 88 Nigerian Air Force cadets for the 67 Regular Coast, as well as 272 cadets of 45 Short Service Coast in a practical display of proficiency, dexterity, and resolve to key into the presidential drive for a secured and prosperous country.
I'm highly impressed. Very well rehearsed parade, very competent and lively cadets, whom I'm sure will be useful to us in the battlefield in Northeast and other operational areas.
While acknowledging Nigerian Defense Academy's transformation both in military and academic excellence, President Muhammadu Buhari in his message expressed confidence in the ability of the commissioned cadets to add value to national security.
Commander-in-Chief has directed them to really wake up and meet the challenges of the service.
Second Lieutenant Owarwe Tunde and colleagues will be deployed to various formations for national service and as future leaders in the Nigerian military. In Kaduna, I am Suleiman Abdullahi Rigachikun, NTA News.
In the meantime, the Nigerian Air Force sustained onslaught against remnants of Islamic State of West Africa province ISWAP terrorists in the northeast of the country has yielded significant results with the destruction of another ISWAP hideout and neutralization of several of their fighters at Kirta Wulgo on the fringes of Lake Chad in Borno State. A statement released by the Director of Public Relations and Information, Nigerian Air Force Air Commodore Ibikunle Daramala says the airstrike was conducted by the Air Task Force of Operation Lafia Dole on Friday, 4th of October 2019. After persistent intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance missions revealed that the settlement was being used as a staging area from where the terrorists launched attacks against own troops' positions. Overhead the target area, scores of ISWAP fighters were observed attempting to flee upon sighting the attack platforms. The aircraft took turns in engaging the location, scoring accurate hits which led to the destruction of some structures, as well as the killing of several terrorists. The NAF, operating in concert with service forces, will sustain its efforts to completely destroy all remnants of the terrorists in the northeast. In other news, the extraordinary Federal Executive Council meeting originally scheduled to hold on Saturday has been shifted to Monday, October 7th, 2019 by 12 noon. Special Advisor to the President, Femi Adesina, says the meeting is to put finishing touches to the year 2020 budget, which would still be presented to the National Assembly by 2 p.m. on Tuesday. Now, World Teachers' Day, also known as International Teachers' Day, is held annually on October 5th to address the status and situations of teachers around the world. Established in 1994, it commemorates the signing of the 1966 UNESCO ILO recommendation concerning the status of teachers. This recommendation outlines standards relating to education, personnel policy, recruitment, and initial training, as well as the continuing education of teachers, their employment and working conditions. World Teachers' Day aims to focus on appreciating, assessing, and improving the educators of the world and to provide an opportunity to consider issues related to teachers and teaching. This year has as its theme, Young Teachers, the Future of the Profession. The federal government will collaborate with state governments with a view to encouraging young talents to embrace teaching as a profession so that rural areas do not suffer neglect in that regard. This is the message of President Muhammadu Buhari at this year's World Teachers' Day. Nigeria occupies... All right, joining us now live to discuss more on World Teachers' Day, I have with me Dr. Mike Ike-Ene, who is the Secretary General of the Nigerian Union of Teachers. Dr. Mike, you're very welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
All right, this year's theme for World Teachers' Day is Young Teachers, Future of the Profession. Could you just tell us what does this theme explain?
Yeah. Of course, everybody knows that there is this dearth of teachers. Mm-hmm. Of course, no wonder today the NUT is pressing for 65 years of age so that we can retain our teachers. And where we cannot retain them, if the bill cannot be signed into law, we expect it should be signed into law because it has passed the two chambers. It's just only awaiting assent from Mr. President. But where we cannot get it now, I think the beauty of this theme is that we should endeavor to bring in the young ones.
Right. Okay.
And,
yeah, go on.
Yep. Bringing in the young ones will give a beautiful leg to the older ones who are going, because our teachers are retiring in drones. They are dying in the Northeast.
Yep.
Almost 1,000 teachers have been killed in the Northeast, Northwest as a result of the menace of Boko Haram. And of course, you discover that the motivation is not there for the younger ones to join. So I think the beauty of this theme is simply apt. It is now or never.
Right. You mentioned about the user. They are very important to the future of the teaching profession. Where did we get it wrong in terms of their interest in entering into this profession?
Come again.
Where did we get it wrong? Where did Nigeria get it wrong with regards to the interest of youths in the teaching profession?
Yeah. Of course, where we got it wrong is not far-fetched. Yeah. You can recall that in those days, if I don't know when you were born, but I know that shortly after independence, the teacher was the all-knowing person in the community. He was the teacher, he was the counselor, he was the only educator, he was the reader of all readers, he was the catechist. Everybody rallied around him. His profession was noble, and the respect was there. Every parent wanted the child to pass through a teacher. Of course, somebody like me passed through a teacher for so many years because my parents wanted me to be like that teacher who was a role model in the community. And as a result, that was how the teacher kept growing. That was how the teacher kept getting it right until the willingness was no longer there. You now discover that today, teachers are old for so many months. The promotion doesn't come. Salaries, when it comes at the beck and call of politicians, and they have bastardized the profession by bringing in all manner of people, quacks, those who sell banana, who sell granules at the roadside. A politician, because he feels that his constituency allowance, picks up an appointment paper and gives it to one quackery, and he goes into his school and begins to mess up the education industry. And as a result, when you discover that you know more than the person who is going to teach you, the respect will no longer be there. But that doesn't mean that the real teachers are no longer there. The real teachers are there. But there have been a lot of other factors, like the willingness is no longer there. The initiative, the commitment, the motivation are not there. Right. But then let us thank Mr. President Muhammad Buhari for coming all the way long now to say, yes, let us look at this thing for a second time, where he thinks that the teachers could be motivated, because everything is not money. You'll find out that where we sit and teach, we sit under looking roofs, we sit on the floor. There are virtually no table or chairs for the teacher. Even the homes where the teacher come to, from the place where they come is better than the place where they sit. Of course, anywhere you walk should be environmental friendly. All these things are where we got it wrong.
Okay, what should be done to encourage the youth to develop interest in this profession?
Yes, the opposite of what I have said. First and foremost, I want to thank the body that is now regulating the teachers, called Teachers Registration Council, TROCN, who is now preparing what you call a teacher's progression career. That career is talking of, if you say that teaching is a profession, we should be entering like other professionals, where a nurse enters on a particular grade level, the doctor, the lawyer, and other professions, the engineers. So be it. If a teacher now graduates in any educational institution and he gets a job, the teacher should go one grade level ahead of the others. And of course, this idea of reducing the JAMB score to the limited level for people to go and read education is not a way out. We keep criticizing it. NUT is against it. If you go to Finland, you go to Malaysia, you go to France, in fact, the teacher is the only person allowed to sit down in the court. When a teacher comes in the courtroom, he sits down, others stand up. When you get to these places in Japan, you find out that those are the top echelon. Those who have 5 alphas and above are those who are taken to read education.
Absolutely.
These are the things we can be looking at so that we can bring up this standard for the younger ones to keep emulating. And of course, this idea of after, the Bible says a worker is worthy of his hire. When you hire a worker, please pay that worker. For the mere fact that governors or education stakeholders feel that when they pay salary, people should clap for them. Of course, let them understand that there is what we call give and take. When you offer something, there is an acceptance, and it goes with much responsibility. Absolutely. One of the responsibilities is to pay salaries. When the salaries don't come, of course, it dampens the spirit of productivity. So when some of these things are done, you will find out that people will now get back to the olden days when the profession becomes noble, when people can now want to come into the profession.
All right, Dr. Mike, just finally, what role should stakeholders play? Not just Mr. President, this is not something that should just be on his shoulders, but all stakeholders, the parents, the teachers, to galvanize interest in this profession, to take it forward in the country.
Thank you. What did he say? Can you step up your voice, please?
Your final thoughts on what stakeholders should do to promote interest in this profession. You said that Mr. President has done laudable initiatives to galvanize interest in this profession, but obviously it is not just for Mr. President alone. So what should all other stakeholders, parents and teachers do to promote interest in this teaching profession?
Yes. Now, let me use this opportunity to thank some of the governments, because education remains on the concurrent list. When you come to the federal, some of them are doing well. You go to states, some are doing very well. Like today, we honor the 3 governors who are education friendly. And if you get to local governments, there are people who are equally doing well. In the same vein, there are multinational companies, like, let me single out the Nigerian breweries, of course, who every year, for over 5 years now, spend hundreds of millions on teachers at various levels. Of course, they are now, the area they are stuck now is at the secondary school level. They have not gone down to primary school level, where a teacher is motivated with 5 million naira, with all sorts of award. The other person goes with millions of naira, the other person goes. And of course, you find out that about 12, 13, 15 states, a teacher will go away with about 750,000 with a lot of other gadgets to motivate you for a better teaching. Now you find out that talking about parents, yes, parents have a role. A situation where a parent goes out in the morning, comes back. If I have a story where a child called the father uncle when the father came back on a particular weekend. The father lives in Lagos, goes out 4 a.m., comes back about between 11 and 12. And of course, this child has no opportunity of knowing the father other than through a picture. So on a particular day, the father came in and knocked for the door to be opened. The child ran in and told the mother, please open the door, there's an uncle who has visited. And of course, you know what it means. Okay. So parents have a big role to play as far as education is concerned. Absolutely. First and foremost, they need to encourage their pupils.
All right. Dr. Mike Ike-Ene, Secretary General, Nigerian Union of Teachers, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. This is NTA International News. We'll take a... News continues in a moment. Stay with us.
Hey, you! And are you how they talk to? I sabi you now. It's in your mind, Abi. The person with them go help us. Baba Toros and Shangalo. Oga Legova, Mr. Sabi. And you know if you carry last for this one.
A spear into the top corner.
We Sabi say Peking go crawl before in waka. So don't look, no help anybody. No dolly, no. So go for it. Go for football. Go for all Syria and La Liga matches live. Go for GoTV Max.
Welcome back. Now to health matters. Nigeria occupies a place in Germany's new global health strategy scheduled to be adopted by the end of 2019. Health Minister of Germany, Jens Spahn, on a visit to Nigeria, met with his counterpart, Dr. Osagie Ehanire, where he outlined polio eradication and strengthening of health security as part of its intervention in the Nigerian health sector. Health correspondent Rabi Abdallah has the report.
Bilateral relations between Nigeria and Germany regained momentum in 1999 with the advent of democracy in Nigeria. Economic relations between the two countries is said to have improved tremendously, with Nigeria being Germany's largest trading partner in the ECOWAS sub-region. During the past decade, Germany is said to have taken on a leadership role in global health, and Nigeria is a beneficiary of what Germany has to offer in the current space. Rising from the meeting held behind closed doors, the German Health Minister, Jens Spahn, and his host speak.
There are already 5 hospitals in the country here that are supported by our Ministry for Economic Development, so that you can have a train-the-trainer concept, that you can have a cooperation between the hospitals, and that is something we want to deepen and to promote in fighting diseases, especially infectious diseases. Our Centers for Disease Control, our German Robert Koch Institute, already many areas where we have a strong and good cooperation, and we will go on and deepen it.
I just mentioned to them the area of patient transportation, e-health, mobile health, in enhancing the health system of Nigeria and patient and service delivery.
Nigerians, no doubt, look forward to the outcomes that the partnership will bring. In Abuja, Rabi Abdallah, NTA News.
Now, do you know that a Nigerian woman has a 1 in 22 lifetime risk of dying during pregnancy, childbirth, or unsafe abortion? This is against 1 in 4,900 lifetime risk in other developing countries. Basi Ita-Ipan reports on a stakeholders meeting on reducing maternal mortality rate in the country with focus on family planning.
Nigeria is said to be the most populous country in Africa, and it is at the verge of becoming the 3rd in the world. The report further shows that Nigeria has not improved on its family planning program in the last 10 years, leading to significant high maternal and infant mortality rates. To fill this gap, stakeholders at this forum are deliberating on the current situation of universal health coverage, implication of poor family planning policies to health and development, as well as family planning funding commitments for the attainment of 2020 targets in Nigeria.
No matter what the government does to improve economic prosperity, if we do not reduce the growth rate of our population, it will come to nothing.
So if you can get people away from getting pregnant unintentionally, then you will certainly reduce maternal mortality.
The high rate of maternal mortality in Nigeria was blamed on religious and cultural impediments.
Culture, yes, it plays a role. That's, I can say, it is even blending into the religion. That is the root cause of some of the religious misconceptions. Categorically, Islam is not against the child spacing of a woman.
And you know that if women even go behind their families to go and have family planning, because if they tell at home that I want to go and have family planning, they might have problem from home.
A woman can only be pregnant for 9 months, and a man can have multiple pregnancies from different women. So a lot of the advocacy should also be targeted towards the male population.
While acknowledging the fact that there could be no meaningful developments when the population of the country is not controlled, participants advocated political commitments to ensure that no woman dies in the course of childbirth. Basi Taipang, NTA News.
In other news, uncompleted buildings are increasingly becoming a common feature of property development in Nigeria. One group, the Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors, is making a bold statement that this negative situation can be reversed. But just how can this be? Onengiye Fineface seeks answers.
A major feature of Nigeria's development is in the real estate sector. Buildings are being constructed regularly for private and public use. At the same time, several buildings are left uncompleted owing to reasons like shortfalls in finances.
A project is a whole process. You start from the beginning to the end on paper. So if you do that and you make sure that the resources to achieve it are there, then you should be able to have it on time.
Quantity surveyors in Nigeria are of the opinion that the failure to fully utilize their expertise contributes to this preponderance of uncompleted buildings.
Quantity surveyors, we know all the different forms of undertaking projects, but unfortunately, we don't get involved. They don't involve us in many projects, especially big infrastructure projects.
As a proof, the Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors constructed its headquarters complex in 17 months, an illustration of how to build the right way.
Because this is a perfect example of what project management is, to deliver a project within time, within specification, with the right specification, and within the budget.
Our members will have access to information here. Our members will have opportunity to interface directly with the headquarters of the Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors.
The project stands on a 1,780 square meters space and commenced in November 2017. In Abuja, Onengiye Fineface, NTA News.
Now, President Buhari's visit to South Africa has been described as highly productive and successful. President Buhari was in South Africa for talks with his counterpart Cyril Ramaphosa after violent attacks on foreign nationals, including Nigerians, threatened to rupture the cordial and brotherly relationship between the two countries. Against the backdrop of this mission, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, in a statement, revealed that major highlights include an agreement that the two countries will lead the Binational Commission (BNC) at the level of heads of state, which was the first ever by Nigeria for the first time. In the very historic relations that bind the two countries, this visit sought to and successfully establish an equation between the leaders, and the statement adds that the meeting took place when some countries in the sub-region recalled their ambassadors and threatened to cut ties with South Africa following the xenophobic attacks. Nigeria under President Buhari chose to act wisely by not taking rash action. There were many doubts in quarters of the continent if the South African state understood early enough the magnitude of the consequences of attacks on their own nation and Africa as a whole. So for President Buhari, the approach was one of engagement to assist the governments and people of that country to overcome their problem, which by now had become our own and Africa's challenge. President Buhari set the right tone by sending a special envoy to sensitize the South African leadership on the concerns of Nigeria and of the continent, as well as the implication of the attacks. And that concludes NTA International News at this time. Many thanks for watching. I am Dennis Adigunloye.